Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipsters Curtain Calls. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, and this is episode 39 of the Curtain Calls, entitled, In the Name of Love? They can try to take away our crypto, but they cannot take away our pride. This podcast episode, compilation episode from season 6, 7, and 8, is a combination of 5 clips from 5 different podcasts over the 3 seasons, 2 from season 6, 2 from season 7, and 1 from season 8. This podcast features first a conversation I had with TJ Chang, who is the founder at SHOPX back in November 2023 during season 6. We spoke about how SHOPX is empowering customer ownership in Web3 and how to navigate the current inflationary period successfully. We had an inflationary period back there in 2023, kind of have one a little bit again now, and we talk about the macroeconomic outlook. My second conversation was my second interview with this man. It was a Shooting from the Hip episode 15 episode in June 2024 with Matthew Merle, who is the CEO of blockchain Coinvestors. Matthew has the distinct honor and privilege of being my first guest ever back in March 2021. I had a wonderful conversation with him again in June of 2024 during season 7, and we talked about how 2024 could be the year that crypto-focused voters tip the U.S. election results in pro-blockchain candidates' favor, which is exactly what happened. My third conversation from season 6, the second one from season 6, was with Sean Mackay. Sean was co-founder of CoinPayments. We spoke in October 2023, and we talked about his insights and predictions for the upcoming bull market. There was bull market until this past October of 2025, and now we're kind of in a tailspin, have been since, and hopefully the market will rebound sometime soon in 2026. But we spoke about that, and he's the co-founder of CoinPayments, a payment company. Fourth was my conversation with Agustin Liserra, CEO and co-founder of NUM Finance. That was also in season 7 in May 19, 2024. It was also a crypto hipster shooting from the hip episode. So Matthew was shooting from the hip episode 15, and Agustin is shooting from the hip episode 10. We talked about insights from Argentina. He's from Argentina. Marrying traditional finance stability with blockchain's innovation potential. That's a wonderful conversation. Last and not least, I had a conversation with Kyle Reidhead, who's the co-founder and head of research at Milk Road. We talked during season 8 in March 2025. We talked about his outlook of crypto in the U.S. is extremely bullish despite recent short-term market volatility. That is a video episode from March from season 8. All my podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Google, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. These clips are available as this episode and also as individual episodes. You can find them if you listen to this podcast and have something that you hear that you want to learn more about. Please do check out the podcast with these guests in their entirety. They are all amazing. Thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Crypto Hipsters Curtain Calls, episode 39. In the name of love, they can try to take away our crypto, but they cannot take away our pride. Thank you for tuning in. We're having you said we have an election year, and I'm like, I can't believe it's been 4 years. You
Yeah.
know, uh, wow. I
My
mean,
wallet can.
yeah, my wallet can too, but not because of that, but because of Celsius and FTX, and you
Yeah.
know, and they
Yeah.
were they weren't around 4 years. Like it wasn't a big like they grew and like the crash. But like the big
It was
news was it
quick.
was quick. SBF was
Yeah.
found guilty last week.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think will be the long term impact because of that SBF verdict going forward, and what adjustments do you think you see occurring in the industry because of it?
Yeah, this is a very hot topic right now, and it's a lot of polarizing opinions here. And this is where I always tell everybody I don't know what the exact number is. I know a few months ago it was like around 2% of Americans own crypto wallets, right? So that means about 98% of the population is not as educated on Web3. So with that number, 98% to the 2% that really knows what's going on, it leaves that 98 very impressionable upon media. So how media decides to tell the story is usually how the 98% perceives it. And with that big of a population size, just interpreting what media tells them, that normally becomes the norm, right? And us as the 2% that are experts in this space, we try to speak, we try to educate, but it's a very big climb, and a lot of the times we don't have as big of voices as the media. It's a big fight, and we saw this happen with FTX, we saw this happen with SBF, we saw this happen even earlier when with Binance as well. But it it really depends, I think, how the media is going to tell the story. Where I hate that we're so contingent upon it, but media does play a very big role on consumer confidence, right? If they tell the story, SBF was found guilty. We've placed this, and this laws in place. So now crypto is now we're taking steps towards security. We're taking steps um towards your money being safe. We put this and this law in place so that they can no longer be bartering money that they don't actually own, right? If that was the media narrative, I can see this having a very positive um recovery. I can definitely see people starting to spend, because at the same time, we weren't able to define what security tokens were either, right? For the past couple years. But then if they tell the other story of SBF was found guilty, crypto's unstable, the you know, um, biggest story of the day, biggest scam, that will scare people away, right? It really depends how they tell the story, and I think that it's as we can't control what media does, and the reason why I tell people this is that all we can do is start to educate people, tell people to listen to more podcasts, tell people to make decisions for themselves, tell people to read up on that. That's really all we can do. We will never have big enough voices to fight the media. So in terms of brands, that's why I always tell them, start with your community. The community trusts you, right? If you tell them you're safe with us and you do small test groups and stuff, you can really work with them, and you can gain the trust of their community because they're already giving you money. That's the best way that people decide who they trust, is who they give money to. So I always tell people that, the only way to get past this is to educate the people around us, your customers, your friends, your people. We can't control how they're going to tell this narrative with SPF. I'm glad that there's some awareness around this now, and I'm hoping that we get a little bit more guidelines, at least in the United States, before everybody leaves the U or every company leaves the US. I'm hoping that we get more guidelines to really keep more of crypto momentum here going into the next year.
Unicorns. You do things on reports on unicorns. There are a lot of people who think that innovation is going to be driven by AI and not blockchain, but I think they work together. You know, how do you see, the next few years playing out as far as that innovation, and what role will AI have, will blockchain have, and what other perhaps innovation will be present there as well?
Yes. So firstly, you're correct, Jamil, but let me just step it up one level. AI, blockchain, enterprise software, the Internet of Things, they're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. And what are they? They're all software. So some decades ago, we started figuring out how to make computers and software do our work better. And in order to do that, we had to build a whole bunch of infrastructure. Later on, we had to connect the world together with the internet, which also was additional infrastructure. And we started gathering more and more data, and we started having databases of information and data that was created by this new computing infrastructure globally. We knew back then that there was a software technology stack, if you will, and that from data, you would go to data manipulation and management. And on top of that, you would have decision-making tools and technologies, including what we used to call machine learning and algorithmic decision-making and so on. And then on top of all of that, we hoped one day to get to smart decisions, and we felt the computer could help with that as well. So software is itself a stack, which certainly one part of which is data to information, to insights, to decision-making and actions. And we have been using machine learning and algorithmic tools for decades now. So this is not new. Credit card companies started doing better solicitation based upon models in the 90s. Amazon started suggesting your next purchase to you in the 90s. Google started finishing your sentences when you write your email many years ago. And these are just examples. We now call all of that AI, but my point to you is that it isn't really new, but it is definitely getting better very, very fast, more capable, faster, more powerful, very, very quickly. So the innovation curve has steepened for AI. And I do think that AI just had its iTunes, iPod moment. And what I mean by that is, for those of you who remember, you could have downloaded digital music in the early zeros onto your own device, but it was really, really difficult. It was really difficult. So most people didn't do it. And then suddenly we had Apple introduced the iPod and iTunes, and suddenly it was really, really easy. And we all started moving over to digital music. Well, AI has been around for a long time, but it's not been the thing that Jamil or Matthew can easily use. It's been very, very hard to access. Then ChatGPT and others came along, and suddenly you sort of have a search browser, a search cell, you type something in, and you're working with AI, and it's so easy, So that's really important. AI has suddenly become accessible and easy to use. The other thing that's gone on in the background, which a lot of your listeners may be less aware of, is the developers are now building software development tools where the AI does the first coding that they want done. It basically helps them write code. And there are AI platforms and tools now that developers can use to accelerate their code development. The reason why that's really important is the same point. If software is eating the world, the reasons why that wasn't happening faster were that it required human beings to code, and they were in scarce demand, and it took them time to write code. Now we've just accelerated that with tools, with computers and tools. So the rate of software development is also now going up very, very rapidly. So software is eating the world even quicker.
Our politicians sometimes shouldn't be throwing their negativity into the market. There was some articles in the Wall Street Journal and by an article by a politician here that said that if you're following world event, that Hamas used Bitcoin to fund their weapons, right, in Israel. And, being on the blockchain, everything is transparent, but one of the things that you're in the payment space, and illicit financing is always an issue, right, in payments, right? And how do you, as a payment company, curb away illicit financing and curb away their use for terrorism. What have you put in place to be able to make sure that the money you receive is safeguarded against those things?
Sure. I'll get into that. Let me just first start by saying I think the use of crypto in black market terrorist type dealings is just a terrible idea. As you mentioned, everything is on chain. It's all traceable back, and it's not a smart way to do it. I mean, I don't think, even if you look at the numbers, I don't know how much true real data there is about this, but if you took like all the terrorist financing for the year and then you made a pie chart, you saw what percent was crypto versus US dollar bills versus gold and diamonds, art, whatever they happen to trade with, I think you'll find crypto is very, very tiny piece of that pie. But you're right in that we do still need to safeguard against that, regardless of how big a piece of the pie it is. And there's two main ways we do that. There's the onboarding of clients. And so whenever we accept a new client to do business with, we have to put them through our onboarding process, which involves a KYC check, and know your customer. That's typically a passport or driver's license, some kind of ID that we verify, as well as a liveness check where they take a selfie with this ID. And then we also do a proof of address check, which is typically done through a utility bill or tax return, bank statement, anything that has your name and address on it, just to prove where you reside, country of residence. And then if it's a business, because we do service both individuals on the wallet side as well as businesses on the payment gateway side, businesses go through a Know Your Business KYB onboarding flow, which kind of checks their corporation, all the directors that own over 10%, they all have to do KYC and articles of incorporation, all this fun stuff. But basically, all I'm trying to say is that we do all the due diligence of onboarding a client before we start servicing them. That's the first part, onboarding. And then the second part is the transaction monitoring. So all the transactions that they do, we have to monitor those, making sure they didn't send out any crypto to known terrorists, known black market addresses, making sure they didn't receive any from known black market terrorist addresses. And we obviously, we're a payment gateway and a custodial wallet, so we don't have that type of ability to look into all of this stuff. So we use third-party providers for this. There's a good one for the transaction monitoring that probably has the most data on all the addresses out there, called Chainalysis, and we use them for the transaction monitoring. And just kind of goes to show even more like how hard it is to hide transactions on the blockchain if you're one of these bad actors trying to use crypto for illicit activity.
You mentioned the Newmont ecosystem, right? And you have a very novel approach to RWA tokenization. I want to find out how that works, and then the overall token market, the RWA token market opportunity globally.
Yeah. Well, no, the Newmont ecosystem is our latest venture into creating a comprehensive crypto ecosystem focused on, as you were mentioning, tokenizing of real world asset, RWAs, as they are called. There is a significant demand in the crypto community for exposure to tangible assets, because as we were discussing, during a bull run, all of the crypto ecosystem is willing to be exposed to Bitcoin, ETH, or other altcoins. But during a bear market or in some times where the market is sideways, it is important to have the possibility to not be like allocated in USDC with zero yield, or USDC, USDT, but to be invested in traditional financial products such as as I was mentioning, USD bills or S&P 500 index, which can serve, as I was mentioning, as a solid collateral for loans. So we see this demand growing in the future. Numum aims to meet this need by providing a secure, fast, and transparent way to tokenize and integrate real world assets in a regulated manner, in which Noom Finance, that is part of the Noom ecosystem, is acting as the tokenizer for these traditional financial assets, where you will be able to mint and to transparent to see your collateral in the Noom finance platform. And the collateral, basically, for just taking the T-bills example, if you have the Noom tokenized version of T-bills, the collateral or the assets that are backing those tokens are directly T-bills in a segregated bank account that is bankruptcy remote. So if tomorrow Noom Finance ceases to exist, for example, you as the token holder will have the right to redeem the T-bills that are backing your assets, your tokens. So it is quite important, and we are working on reinforcing these kind of concepts, such as bankruptcy remoteness. There are not several jurisdictions in the world that allow this kind of structured figure, but we are working in different jurisdictions, such as Bermuda, for example, that we are working for being licensed there, that really protect the retail users. So it is important for us to have this approach.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing I'm concerned about is the lack of innovation. What does that mean? Last cycle, we had the creation of ZK rollup, ZK Pro. We had all this awesome ZK stuff and other innovations. Okay, this time we just have millions of more coins. You know what? Most of them are meme coins, but we have coins, but no new innovation. We need to have new innovation, right? So, Where's the innovation going to come from? What's like? That's going to head the next bull cycle, right? You need something.
Yeah. Look, I think what this cycle is about, so there is innovation. It's mainly on, let's say, the AI in crypto world, in terms of AI agents. Obviously, meme coins, not a huge innovation. And that's gotten a lot of the attention over the last, let's say, 2 years or maybe a year and a half. But I think, so we have innovation happening in the AI crypto world. But more importantly, I think what this cycle really, the big deal of this cycle is not new innovations. It's the innovations of previous cycles that are finally able to be scaled and have better UX and actually gain adoption from real companies. So like for me, the most exciting thing is stablecoins, which I know people don't care about because the number doesn't go up for a stablecoin. They're stable. But ultimately, we finally hit an inflection point for stablecoins. We're at 227 billion in supply of stablecoins. That's almost doubled in the last year, right? That's massive. And it's going up at about 5 billion a week right now. So the clip of dollars coming on chain is massive. And that in itself is actually a huge unlock for what blockchains and what crypto is enabling, right? If you're an American, it's not the most exciting thing in the world because you already have access to dollars. You can move them within your country pretty easily and it's cheap. The rest of the world who has currencies that are not as good as the dollar, they all want access to the dollar. And it's very costly, or in a lot of places, it's prohibited for them to get it. Places like Argentina and Turkey, et cetera, their currencies are inflating at ridiculous rates, and they actually can't even get access to dollars. In some places, it's illegal. And if you want to send money, let's say from, I'm in Canada. If I want to send money from Canada to Europe, we have a lot of employees in Europe that we pay to do that from dollars. It's actually quite expensive, and it takes multiple days, right? Like it's 2025, and somehow it costs me like $10, $15 to send, let's say $1,000 or $2,000, and it takes like 3 days. It's like I could fly to Europe faster than I can send money. Like how, in what world does that make sense? Now, stablecoins do this where it removes all borders from dollars. And so now the around the globe, you can move money anywhere and it's free essentially. And it happens immediately. and you actually get to custody it and hold it yourself. You have no issues around people blocking your payments, et cetera. And so that to me is a massive unlock for people that want to move money to other people, whether it's families in different countries, but also for businesses. That's where I think the real adoption is coming. As I mentioned already around regulation, Trump's already given the green light now for corporations and countries even to start to use this stuff. And for example, we pay about 30% of our employees using stablecoins because they're in different countries. And it's way, way, way easier and cheaper for us to do it. We want to get that to 100%. We're not the only company in this world that wants to do that. We're starting to see stablecoins really pick up and become an integral part of the financial system. And I think both in terms of payments and in terms of like paying employees, Robinhood is settling their transactions using stablecoins on weekends. So like it's becoming a really big deal. And I think that's not super innovative, right? In terms of like this year, we've had stablecoins for what, 5, 6, 7 years now, but we finally unlocked the regulatory uncertainty and the scale to be able to actually do this, right? And so another thing I think that's really big this cycle is DeFi. Again, DeFi was the innovation last cycle, as you said, but we're at a place where the stuff's been battle tested. It's working. We have better yields in crypto than we do in the TradFi world. And so I think, again, corporations can start to come in and use this stuff for their treasuries. Why wouldn't they? They can get better yield on their dollars. Why wouldn't they hold Maker's stablecoin where they can make 6.5%, right? In US treasuries, you can only make, I don't know, is it like 4% or something, 4.3%. So I think the adoption is coming from corporations finally being able to put their money, and not just money, but start to build and integrate crypto and blockchain into their companies. And I think that's where we're going to get the next big leg up is from that unlock. And so it's not necessarily innovation, but it's finally being able to use it and integrate it into existing infrastructure. So that's the thing I'm most excited about. And then on the innovation side, I do think there is still a lot of innovation in terms of AI. AI agents, I think, is the biggest thing that people need to be paying attention to right now. If you've used them, they're not perfect yet. Like, don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of AI agents on Twitter, and honestly, they kind of suck. But the speed at which AI is improving right now is incredible.